Good morning, everyone. I'm Jonathan Little. Hope you're having a fantastic morning. We're going to have a special guest coming in soon. My wife, Amie Broder. I don't know if she's going to become a mainstay on the show or not. She's not here right now, so if you want me to vote her out, feel free to vote. If you don't want her to be here, if you do, well, good. My vote probably carries 49% of the total vote, so we're going to need a lot of negative opinions to get her out of here. Let's see. What is today? Today is Friday. Friday's a nice day. A lot of people look forward to their weekends. I kind of, I'm not going to say dread my weekends. I definitely don't dread my weekends. But I enjoy the week because I get to work more in the week. I love to work for all of you to help you better your poker and your lives. I have a lot on my plate. We are putting the finishing touches on Modern Poker Theory by Michael Acevedo. It's a fantastic book. It's a dense book, and it's a tough one to edit because I want to make sure I'm going through and making all of these very difficult concepts clear and implementable. So that's what we're doing. That's taking up a lot of my time currently. Also, I'm editing a mixed game book for D&B Poker written by Dylan Lind. Oh, hi! Look, it's our special guest. I asked them if they wanted to vote you out, and they didn't. So that's good. Another one sold. Can't wait to play poker today. Yeah, it's the weekend. Are you going to go play poker tonight?
No.
No? Well...
I'm going to catch up on TV and watch maybe an episode of Game of Thrones.
Oh! No!
No spoilers.
Don't never say that.
I shouldn't have said that. No spoilers. We're just starting the show. Please don't. I know. John's so mad.
Why would you do that? You know what? You are out. Leave.
I got voted out.
We're going to have to close chat. Close all the chats today.
I'm sorry. We're liking it, though. I can't believe it took us so long to start watching it.
Normally, you wait like at least 20 minutes before saying something ridiculous.
I know. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I take it back. We're not watching it.
Don't read the chat. I'm going to spoil it for only myself when people elect to spoil it for me.
Okay.
You know, on season 4, the zombie people come in and kill everybody. And then the show's just over.
What do they do for the following 3 seasons?
It's just only black screen.
The HBO static screen.
Yeah, HBO static screen, which is mesmerizing. All right. Today, our topic is the unseen cost of going pro. What is it?
More than people think, that's for sure.
What do you think about playing on PPP Poker? I do not think that's a good idea. It is well known that they will scoop-a-loop your money. I have a video on which sites to play on in America. PPP is not one I recommend. Go to jonathanlittlepoker.com/USA to see my thoughts on poker sites in America. PPP is not one I recommend. It's one you play on your phone, and essentially you have to send money to agents, like people. Like in theory, I could be an agent or something. And then they have some boss in China they send the money to. And then they deposit fake coins onto an app.
This sounds terrible.
Yeah, but you can play on your phone. It's a Ponzi scheme. Also, they rake a lot, which is also an issue. And what was the other thing? Oh, there's already been a few people who, like the agent, essentially said, "Sorry, I don't have your money." So those people are just out. They just essentially pocketed all the whole load of money. This is not. Let's listen to everyone. We're not going to be talking about all the sites. I already made a video for that. Go to jonathanlittlepoker.com/USA. Spend 5 or 10 minutes watching that. Then you don't have to ask me ever again. That sounds very dodgy. Yes, that does sound very dodgy. So today, unseen cost of going pro. First things first. 401k retirement. Most poker players do not save anything for retirement. And to be fair, most people don't save anything for retirement, and I think that is a big mistake. Poker is a game that I think a lot of people do think they can do forever, but if you look at a lot of the old great poker players, the vast majority of them end up having like mental issues. Like a lot of people have mental issues as they get older, and poker is a mental sport. It's a mental game. I don't know if it's actually a sport. You think it's a sport? So anyway, essentially what happens is people don't save money. They think they can keep playing poker when they're 50, 60, 70, etc. And that just doesn't happen. I think the most, I guess, iconic story, this is a guy, Johnny Moss, who won a few World Series of Poker events way back in the day. And apparently by the time he was old, he was playing 3-6 limit hold'em and had no money to his name, despite being a very wealthy poker player. And that's sad, right? It's because he probably didn't save money right. Now listen, I don't know the guy. This is just a story. But you don't want that to happen to you. So you may have to make sure that you save your money. Next, you only make money when you get, whenever you're playing, right? If you're not playing, you don't get paid. And that's very different from most jobs because at most jobs, you get vacation time, right? You can just pack it up and take a vacation. Now, a lot of people like poker because...
On a bad day, you also still get a salary.
Are you reading ahead?
I'm sorry. No, I wasn't. Sorry.
I'm just going to read some questions real quick.
Sorry.
Hoyt Corkins is playing in Panama City. Do I know him? I do know him. Hoyt's my hiking buddy in Vegas. Okay. You don't get vacation days. Here, you can read ahead so you know what not to spoil.
I can't even read your handwriting. I couldn't.
Here's what we're going to discuss today. I wrote this about 3 minutes ago. Okay, vacation days. A lot of poker players really like the idea of being able to just play whenever they want, right? And while that's true, if you are not making a substantial amount from poker, which a lot of people don't, they make $20, $30, $50 an hour, which is a good win rate. But at the same time, if you just decide to take 2 weeks off, well, you just don't get paid for 2 weeks. That is often a problem. So you have to make sure you account for that. One other thing that I know I had a big cost before I met Amie was health insurance. Health insurance is expensive. It seems to be only getting more and more expensive. And that's also something else you have to factor in, right? So think about this. We've already discussed 3 things that a normal job gives you, or usually gives you, sometimes gives you, depending on what field you're in, I suppose. They may give you health insurance, they may give you a 401k, and they may give you vacation time. And all of that needs to be accounted for in your poker win rate.
When you say give, you mean subsidize, right? They don't give you health insurance. You pay premiums.
Fine. Well, okay, they don't give it to you. They give you a subsidized version of health insurance. Fine. I don't know. I'm not employable. I don't know these things. So you need to make sure you're saving money. Let's say you're making $100K a year playing poker. Well, you probably need to be saving 10 or 15K of that at least, right? Next, health insurance. How much is that each month for a family? I don't even know.
Several hundred. Well, on the several hundred dollars a month, and that's subsidized allegedly by the insurance.
So let's call it $500 a month. That's $6,000 a year for health insurance.
But yeah,
$6,000 a year gone. If you want to save money, $15,000 a year gone. What was the other one? Vacation. So say you want to take.
No, but that's subsidized. So unsubsidized, you need to be setting aside more.
I'm trying to I always try to paint a good picture. And then try to paint a really bad picture.
No, but it's even worse than that because I bet large companies get even better rates than individuals. So if let's say subsidized, I'm paying $6K a year, but if I were a partner in the firm, I'd have to pay $12K because the company doesn't subsidize for partners. That's at a company discount probably. If I'm an individual who wants to self-insure, I'm probably going to have to pay more than $12K a year.
Are you kidding? You took my pen too? You were killing me today. You were absolutely killing me today. All right.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And then you need to compare it to the cost of just paying out of pocket if you need to go to the doctor. But that only works if it's really just you and not if you have children that you want to take care of in case of an emergency, in which case you're probably going to want to go out of pocket and overpay on health insurance premiums to just make sure that your kids are taken care of if there's an emergency.
Are you in that picture up there? I can't see it.
I'm like off to the side.
No, you're in that one. That was fine.
I'm looking at that one. I'm on the side of that one.
That's fine.
I don't know. Health insurance is such a frustrating topic.
Okay, so let's see. That's $15K a year you need to save. Next, you need to save, let's say $10K for health insurance. That's $25K. Vacation time. Say you want to take 2 weeks. Say you want to take two weeks off each year. That's don't exactly know how to calculate that. Let's say if you're making 100K, that's 8K a month. I don't know. You need to factor that in too. Out the door, now you're only making like 80K. And then, don't forget, especially if you are a recreational player, you may be a little bit loose with your taxes. If you are a professional, you have to pay your taxes. You should pay your taxes. And that is very, very important. So a lot of people also don't consider the tax implications. And by then you're making what? 50K a year out the door. And if you're making 50K a year out the door when you're actually, quote unquote, bringing home 100K, that's tough, right? So you have to make sure you account for all of these things. Some of you are saying you have incredibly cheap insurance. Some of you are saying you have incredibly expensive insurance. Someone's saying move countries. Well, we're not going to move countries just to get health insurance. We'll pay. But some people out there are lucky. I hear, though, like in a lot of places, like Canada, for instance, people still get insurance because quite often you don't want to have to go through the public healthcare system. Have you heard about this?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I've had Canadian friends who had issues when both of their parents got sick, finding the right specialists and getting quality care fast enough in order to properly care for their sick, loved ones when they were sick.
Speaking of getting sick,
there's probably no perfect system, unfortunately.
Make lots and lots and lots and lots of money, like $500 million a year. That way you can just not worry about it.
Yeah.
Another problem with health is that when you play poker, you may find your health gets worse. Why? Because you're sitting in a chair all day, every day. Sometimes people play in very nocturnal hours, and that's not necessarily good for your body. I know my first 3 years as a poker pro, I gained about 40 pounds. I had no social life, and that's not healthy, right? So a lot of poker players end up with like actual mental issues from living perhaps an isolated life, or they end up with very bad health issues because they don't actively take care of themselves. A lot of jobs, not all, but again some, you get to walk around and move. Like my dad worked on power lines. He got to climb power poles and pick up heavy things, right? My mom was a school teacher. She got to pick up kids and walk around and take care of kids all day, right? Like that burns calories, keeps you in decent shape. Amie, does your job keep you in decent shape?
No.
So Amie's a lawyer, for those who don't know. Do you find that some lawyers get in bad shape as time progresses?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a desk job, right? So I mean, you're sitting at a desk, you're sitting at a computer all day, and you're working crazy hours. And so one of the first things that starts to fall by the wayside is your health and your level of fitness. I think a lot of companies now offer standing desks. Encourage people to take breaks and walk around. A lot of people now at work seem to go to the gym or take a spin class during lunch, since there are a lot of places nearby that they can pop into easily. But it's something that, I think unfortunately when you start having more commitments in your life, when work is taking a lot of your time, family is taking a lot of your time, and other important life errands like doctor appointments and whatever else, the first thing that starts to fall down on the priority list is your self-care, which includes going to the gym and staying fit. And so I think a lot of people struggle with that. I don't think that's a surprise.
So Christian makes a statement that I don't necessarily agree with. Poker is definitely not a sport when it's bad for your health. I don't think anyone thinks things like football are good for your health.
Yeah, boxing.
Boxing's not good for your health. I mean, yes, your muscles are strong, but you end up with all sorts of brain disorders and broken arms and broken legs from football and whatnot.
I don't know what a sport would be. Does a sport have to be physical? But even then, poker, I would argue poker is physical.
There's a separation between physical sports and mental sports, like chess is thought to be a mental sport. But anyway, props for raising awareness on all of this stuff. Most people don't think about these hidden costs. Yeah, most people don't, but we are out here trying to better your lives, and a lot of people go into poker thinking, I'm making 100K a year, I'm rich. But in reality, they're making 50K out the door and they can't pay their bills and they don't understand why. I want to make sure you all do not fall into that.
Has to involve physical exertion and skill in which you compete against others for entertainment. But competing against others for entertainment, I think that's obvious.
Physical exertion.
Skill, yes. And then physical exertion, there's so much stamina involved because you play for so long. I would think there has to be some level of physical exertion. Right,
and if you look at a lot of the best poker players, they are in at least decent shape. I mean, some of them are not in decent shape, but certainly stamina is an important trait. Or, to be fair, you don't have to be able to play all that long. I mean, I don't put in long sessions. Some people put in like 4-day sessions. I think the longest I've ever played has been 24 hours, and it was miserable. And I learned that I did not need that in my life. Let's see. Scub wrote it out for me. 100K a year, 15K self-employment income tax, 3% standard Medicare deduction, 12% Social Security deduction, 6% insurance, 15% savings, leaves 49K take home. That's what I said.
I think everyone pretty much loses about half their salary when all's said and done.
Poker is a game, sports are games. No, that's not how logic works, Patrick. For example, Candyland is a game, but it is definitely not a sport, right? Just because something's a game does not mean it is a sport. And Amy read the definition. And is there physical exertion in poker? That's the subjective thing.
Apple is a food. Banana is a food. That does not mean that apple is a banana.
Wait, what?
If you follow
I know.
Okay.
Amy went to a good school. She understands these things very well.
But that's just not that's
not how it works.
The logic would go. The way you would need to do it is whatever.
Whatever. Anyway, you can get in potentially worse health, but it is important to realize that a lot of sports do tear up your body. It's well known that marathon runners don't actually live all that long. Most of them die before they're 60, 65 years old. This is true.
Okay.
And the thought is that they are running and burning lots and lots of calories. And the logic is essentially that burning lots of calories is what makes you die, which is why you see these people who live to be 100 years old. There are areas in the world where there are little pockets of people who all live to be very old. And it turns out they all eat like 1,000 calories a day. And they do a few they don't do anything unhealthy essentially. And so they don't eat a ton of food. And that's generally the thought, I think, in the scientific community today, is not burning calories keeps your body going longer. They kind of equate it to like a car engine, right? The car engine can last a really long time if you don't drive it, right? But if you drive it all day, every day, even a nice car will burn out. So, again, I'm not a scientist, but that is at least what I've read a lot. And I haven't figured out how to not go through all the calories yet, but I do think that's important. Caloric restriction diets have real health benefits. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All right, next. Amy tried to spoil this one. You may not get paid for a while, right? Especially if you play mostly tournaments. You will not get paid for a while. Amy knows this one.
Ever.
You may not get paid ever, and it's actually true. Think about this, right? If you're not actually putting in a ton of volume, or even if you do put in a ton of volume, Ari Engel, the person who plays probably plays more live poker than anyone in the world, he says he's played, I think, something like 140 tournaments this year so far, which is less than one a day, or about one a day. Is it one a day? It's about one a day. He's played roughly one a day, whatever the math was. I'm like, this guy's playing more tournaments than anyone, and he's played one a day. It's not a lot of tournaments. Over a weekend playing online, you will put in, 200 tournaments if you're playing a lot.
That's a lot.
It is, and that equals half a year of live poker. And I've had many, many losing weekends, and it's actually well known that a lot of the best players in the world lose something like 70 to 80% of weekends online. To be fair, the games are usually tougher, so there'll be more variance and lower win rates. But still, that means you can lose 2 or 3 or 4 years in a row, no problem. And that's because you just don't get paid very often in tournaments, right? Your results go down, 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 then they have a big spike when you win. Then they go down, 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 then they have a big spike when you win. And if you're a little bit unlucky, you're going to have some 6th and 7th places in spots where you were kind of flipping to have a lot of chips. That's happened to me the last 2 WPTs I final tabled. I took, I think, a 6th and an 8th where we were very live to get a lot of chips and we just didn't, right? And that happens. So you say focus on play and not results. Yes, but today we're actually talking about unseen costs. And if you think you make some amount of money consistently and then you just don't, that's a big problem, right? Like, say I know I'm going to spend $4,000 a month on expenses, and I'm starting with, $80K. It's only 20 months of expenses. And I just told you can go on a 3-year downswing, right? So now you're kind of banking on getting lucky. So what you can do is you can do other things to make money consistently. This is why a lot of people who, especially are playing small and medium stakes mostly, play cash games, right? They play cash games because you can get a relatively consistent $50 an hour, which adds up. And I mean, that's what I did even after I'd won a WPT or two. I realized very quickly, all right, downswings are rough. I need to figure out a way to make consistent money. Oh, let's see. What if you have a makeup deal worth $200K or so? I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about, but if you're down $200K in makeup, ideally you want to find other ways to make money, like play cash games. Very often, makeup deals pertain to specific events. They don't pertain to all poker play. If they do, well, then you better get in there and start grinding. Next. Time away from family. This is a tough one. Some jobs require no travel. Some jobs require lots of travel. Like in my ideal world, I would work 9 to 5 all day, every day. Whenever the kids are not home, that's when I want to be working. But poker does not allow that because most poker games take place noon till midnight or 8 p.m. until 6 a.m., right? And if you're... Bill, are you falling asleep?
No, I was just calculating how much work travel I've done. And it really does add up, and it's a lot of time away from home.
We'll talk about you in a minute. Okay, so say you know you need to play poker from, let's say, 6 p.m. till midnight each day. You're not even playing all that much. That's 6 p.m. till midnight. Well, when are your kids at home? They're at home from 6 p.m. till 8 or 9 p.m. when they go to bed, right? So you're missing 3 hours of your kid's life each day. And also...
They're not home from 6 until whatever.
6 p.m. till 9 p.m.?
What time does school end?
I'm saying I go in to play poker at 6.
Oh, okay.
So I'm actually there for whenever school ends. I don't know. We're not there yet. So I'm not saying we miss all their time. But I'm saying you miss 3 hours a day every time you go play poker. And then, if you play till midnight, maybe you don't wake up at 6 or 7 a.m. when the kids wake up. Maybe you wake up at 8 or 9 a.m. So maybe you miss 2 hours there. So if you value time with your family, you miss some of that, right? In the ideal world, everyone goes and does their work or their school and everything at the same time, right? This is probably why school is in the day, and that's when parents go and they do their work during the day, right?
You think that's why school is in the day?
Yeah, it must be, right? What other logical reason could there be? So, that's if you are a regular cash game pro, right? That's actually not so bad. If you're a traveling pro, it's even worse, especially if you play poker when you're home. I purposely don't play a lot of poker when I'm home, because I know it screws up the next day, it screws up that night, and then I'm just losing time with my family. So, if I am going to be playing, I want to make sure it's very worthwhile. But when you travel, you're just missing all of your time, right? So again, I make sure whenever I'm traveling, I am maximizing value. Now, I understand some people out there want to have a vacation away from their family. I'm looking forward to going to the World Series this year for the first time in a long time.
What do you mean first time in a long time? You look forward to it every year.
This year's vacation. Ha ha, ha ha. But you have to understand what you're giving up, right? A lot of people don't think, what am I giving up when I do something else? So go ahead, talk about your work travel.
Are you intentionally going early to the World Series just to get a couple days by yourself?
Funny enough, I'm actually saying the minimum amount of time I think I have to, because I highly value the time with my family.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I arrived the day before a $10,000 event.
Okay.
I'm not going to fly in the morning of. I don't even know if that's possible.
Okay.
And then I leave as soon as I'm done with the, I think it's a 5 or 10K event.
I believe you.
One second before you go. Candyland is entertainment, but it does have value, right? I'm not saying games don't have value. Games have a lot of value. I'm just saying it's not a sport. All right, so anyway,
How many days off do you have while you're out there?
None. I was actually trying to find a day, an available day to have a quote-unquote work retreat where I invite the people who work with me out to talk about the business. And there was literally one day where I know I'm going to be available. And even on that day, I'm having a breakfast for all of you. If you're members of PokerCoaching.com, I'm buying you breakfast in Vegas. And then after that, we're going to go do work for the rest of the day. So even then, that's like the one day I know I will be available because it's day 1B or 1C of the main event.
Do you remember when we first started dating, you had a day off right on the 4th of July, so you flew back for the one day and then flew back out?
Did I do that?
We watched the fireworks.
I do remember watching fireworks.
And then you flew back the next day or something.
That's insane. What if my flight got messed up or something?
I don't know. It was very sweet.
Oh, I do love my wife.
Hasn't done that since. Mm-hmm. Every other time he has a day off, I say, "Oh, are you coming home?" He goes, "Are you kidding me?"
Why would you pay taxes? None of that gets reported. Well, because
you should always pay your taxes.
There's a well-known saying: you don't poop where you eat.
You also don't break the law.
Listen, I realize a lot of laws are ridiculous. Okay, sorry.
No, we pay our taxes.
But
aggressively so.
But what I'm saying is, if you live in America or whatever country you're in, and they mandate you paying X amount, you should pay X amount because you don't want to get in trouble. Now, for the most part, if you're relatively small stakes, you can probably fly under the radar. But my first poker coach, Bill Seymour, a long time ago, told me something very important. He said, make sure you pay your taxes because it's detrimental whenever they audit you if they find that you have been cheating them. And one of my friends right now is getting audited, and he doesn't even play a whole lot of poker. So it happens. And you need to make sure you did right. Otherwise, you could be in significant trouble. And you don't want to get in significant trouble. Okay, talk about your work travel. And does it actually impact you and your family, or is it just like fine part of the job?
It's a fine part of the job. I think the issue with well, it's somewhat the issue with my work travel is that it tends to be what we refer to in our industry as non-billable. So you have requirements to generate money for the firm, but you're also required to spend a lot of your time developing business, which is an expense of the firm. You're spending money to try to make connections rather than generating money. But at your annual review, you are measured and weighed and evaluated and valued based on how many dollars you brought in the door. And so the problem that I think a lot of lawyers tend to have with business travel that's not related to client work is that it takes away time not only from family, but it takes away time from doing the actual billable work that ends up really, propping you up at the end of the year when you want to show your value in work and negotiate your compensation. So that's one current, just ongoing struggle, I think, with travel. And then the other is what you've already said. It takes a lot of time to prepare for the travel, and then you take the travel, and then you're tired from the travel, and you're recuperating from the travel, and then you have to get caught up on everything you weren't able to do while you were traveling. So, in an ideal world, you really wouldn't have to travel that much. But some people like it. Some people, that's the thrill, is kind of going from place to place, meeting with clients, going to the conferences, going to the industry events, and that's what they thrill on and get excited about. And in a vacuum, that's what I would get excited about too if I didn't have all the other stuff going on.
When you travel as a lawyer, how many hours of your day is billable? 24 or 8? Or only when you're working?
Only when you're working.
So that time on the plane, you don't get to bill.
I will tell you, I'm sure there are people out there who put 24 hours into the system because they feel like they're traveling for a client. This is when you're traveling for a client. They're traveling for the client, so they bill that time. Then they're working for the client, so they bill that time. And any time away from the home, is time that should be billed to someone. That's just not how I bill, and I don't think that's how people I don't think that's how most people bill or should bill. So I try to be more judicious about how I bill. Now, if I'm traveling for a conference, that time is going to be mostly non-billable, but if I'm at the hotel checking in on work and doing work while I'm at the conference, I'm billing that time. But it's a much smaller part of my time.
My dad was a lineman. My dad was a lineman for Gulf Power for a very long time. He fixes the power lines. Somehow, though, whenever there was a hurricane, it knocked down all the power lines. We didn't get power back for a long time. Not sure why that happened. Let's see. Someone's saying that the wins and cash games are not reported, therefore you should not pay taxes on them. But
wins and cash games are not reported by
no.
who?
Well, by anyone. If you go and you play 5 to no limit, you start with 1,000, you end up with 5,000. You pick that money up and you leave.
Oh, you just mean there's no information reporting by the casino.
Correct.
They're not keeping track of how much you're winning.
Whereas in a tournament, you'll get a tax form.
Right.
So he's saying you don't need to pay taxes on that.
That's incorrect.
That's definitely incorrect. But also, just because something is not reported does not mean the government can't find out. For example, say you spend a bunch of money. Say you go and you buy a house for cash, right? Or say you somehow have $6,000 in expenses running through your bank, or even not through your bank. Say you just don't have a mortgage or something. That's suspicious things pop up. And you're saying, yeah, this money's been taxed before, so I shouldn't have to pay taxes on it.
No.
That's not how it works.
Any money you earn, the default rule, the rule that should always be in your head, is that all the money you earn is taxable unless you find an exception in the law to it being and to justify it being non-taxable. So the default rule is everything you earn, taxable.
One thing I see may not be quite understanding is maybe he's thinking you have to pay on your wins, but you don't get to deduct your losses, which you definitely do get to deduct your losses. You need to keep track of that. And, to be fair, you can say whatever you want on your win-loss statement, and then it's up to the government if they want to audit that, right? So I see it says you're down by the end of the year. Why should you have to pay on your wins? You don't pay on your wins. If you're down at the end of the year, you don't pay on anything.
But being down is a different concept for you economically than it may be in the tax code. So being down, you take your earnings and you deduct the expenses that you're allowed to deduct from that, or your losses that you're allowed to deduct from that. And it could be that at the end of the year, your tax return, when you're going through all those itemized statements, tell you that you still have taxable income at the end of the year, and then you apply your rate to that amount, even though economically you might feel like you're actually more down than that and in the hole, because everything you actually had, all the expenses you had in life that offset your winnings weren't expenses you were allowed to actually deduct against your winnings on your tax return. You don't get to decide. You don't get to trump what the tax return at the end of the year tells you end up owing.
Let's see. People keep saying move to Europe where they have 0% taxes. In some places, not all places.
Yeah, not all places.
That's also not an option for many people. Let's see. You find it hard to believe. Oh, so let's talk about this. If you are a professional poker player, you do get to write off your computer if you use it for poker, and travel, and hotel rooms, etc., etc. If it's your business.
Right.
If you're a recreational player, you don't get to write off any of that.
Right.
Which is also a big problem for a lot of actual recreational players who win a tournament for, let's say, $50K, and then they have receipts. They get to write off another $10K in losses. But if they spent $10,000 traveling to all those tournaments, they don't get to write that off. So they actually only, quote-unquote, made 30, but they're going to have to get taxed on 40. And that's another problem. Let's see. You find it hard to believe poker players can travel to high-stakes tournaments, make money, and pay for all the expenses. Well, depends on your return on investment, right? It's a pure math question. I'll tell you how I think about it. I look at how much money I'm going to get to invest on a tournament series. So the World Series this year, I'm probably going to invest about $100K. Okay? You want to figure out your ROI in each tournament across the board. You could average it out for the whole series if you want, but that's not smart because you have a lower ROI in big tournaments than small tournaments, because small tournaments have weaker players, right? So let's say on the 100K, I think I'm going to make 30K, let's pretend, for the 3 weeks. Well, we're going to make 30K, and that's it. That's how much we're going to make on average. Now, if I'm going to spend, let's say, 4K on expenses, we're making 24K out the door. And that's it. That's how you have to think about that kind of thing. If you're not a very good poker player, you may make $5,000 on 100K invested. Minus your 4K expenses, then you're breaking even, right? If you're a recreational player and win 100K in a tournament, can't you say you are a pro? Depends on if you have a job or not, right? If you have a job and you make that's your main source of income, then that's your job. Can you have two jobs? Do you know? Can you file somehow as two different professions?
I'm not sure, actually. I mean, I would think. Well, actually, I'm not sure. I'm not even going to take a guess.
So Tony's saying that's the average amount you win. Yes, of course. But if you put in volume, you get your average. Volume cures variance. And a lot of people don't put in volume. They just play one tournament a week and think that's a thing. But, I mean, you have to understand that in live poker, the variance is actually lower because the games are softer. And also, time is a big factor. A lot of people want to look at very short time frames and think that that's relevant, but it's just not. So what you need to do is you need to look at long time frames. Over a 10-year period of time, what is your ROI, et cetera, et cetera. Is it pro to set up an EIN number for yourself? Yes, an EIN number. You need to set up a corporation.
That's not the same thing. It's
not the same thing?
No.
Is the EIN number for Europeans or something? Or non-Americans?
No.
Explain.
An EIN is an ID number for an entity. Like your social security number is your tax ID number. And
I have two different numbers. So how do I have two numbers?
Right. No, that's fine. But you also might have like an LLC or a pass-through entity. Those would not take separate EINs. They would often have the EIN either of you or of like in a corporate structure of the parent entity that owns them. So just because you set up an entity doesn't always mean you have a new EIN. Like in your case, I wouldn't have thought that you had a separate EIN because if you have like a sole proprietorship.
Yeah. No, that is a different EIN. That is my EIN, yeah.
And it's not your social security number?
No.
Interesting.
So I have 2 numbers. And when you go to the casino, whenever you cash in a tournament, you give them the EIN number, not the social security number, if that is your business. A lot of them don't necessarily like that, but that's what you do. Let's see. A lot of people have 2 jobs. Yes, I realize this.
Oh, I just wasn't sure how you do it on your tax return and figure out your deductible expenses if you're allowed to have 2 professions on your return.
If that's the case, why wouldn't everyone just have a 1099 corporation and write off all their expenses to it?
Yeah, that's true.
Just say I do graphic design, so I need to write off my computer, my desk, and my home office, and my internet, and my phone, and you make 4 images a month. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? But, whatever. Let's see. What other career option would I do if I was not in poker?
I would love an answer to that question.
I'd be looking for a rich wife, I guess.
Too bad for me.
Too bad for you. What would I be doing? I don't know. I mean, I was going to school for engineering initially, then I found poker. Engineering got too difficult, so then I switched over to psychology. I did not like that at all. And it seemed unnecessary for poker, because I was mainly into poker at that point. So I never really had a time to try out specific jobs. It seems like lots of poker players do well in finance. It seems like a similar game where it's just a lot of math. Book publishing, yes, I am very capable of doing book publishing. I was not capable of doing publishing a long time ago.
You could be like an agent, or
For who?
For writers in poker, or.
Well, presume poker just doesn't exist.
Poker doesn't exist.
Poker just is gone.
Well, then you should not be a writer or an editor of any kind.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
But finance, I think that's probably what you would do well in.
Murray says you're a sole proprietor and you have the option to set up an EIN or Social Security. All right, good.
Oh, so I'm not crazy.
Well, we have 2 different numbers. All right. Being a poker player in and of itself is not a job, in your opinion. Well, Christian, fortunately, your opinion does not matter. There was a Supreme Court case that made it a job. A poker pro is still around. Billy Baxter, one of the old school players, he had to go to court to make it to where we can be professionals. You say everyone winning a tournament seems to call themselves a pro. Well, most people don't actually understand the legal definitions of it and whatnot. But
well, I think it probably, right, it means if that's your primary source of income, right?
Yeah.
Then that's your job.
Then that's your job. That's all you got to do. So anyway, thanks to Billy Baxter for that. What do you think about Party Poker refunding 700K to players and banning 200 accounts that were bots? Well, clearly that's a good thing. I don't know anything about that, though. I'm not playing online poker. I do know a long time ago, PokerStars randomly sent me like $8,000 and said that I was being cheated by some Chinese collusion ring. And I looked at the period of time they said, and I was up a lot. Like I think I want to play with these players. You're going to find that most of the time the bots are not actually that good. Most of the time the colluders are not actually that good, because if they were, they would just not poop where they eat, right? We've discussed this already.
What's that graphic?
I don't know what that graphic is. What is this EIT graphic?
It's been coming up in a few of your messages.
Is it vulgar? It may be vulgar. How do you accept the fact that I play poker?
Why would it be vulgar? He's talking about taxes.
It's probably like 3 letters in a row that mean something.
That
Maybe
like
it's a symbol.
that autocorrect into something.
That's my guess. How do you well, 1 second. Do poker professional players contribute to Social Security? I do. I get paid through my business, and whenever I get paid through my business, I pay taxes and Social Security and whatnot. How do you accept the fact that I play poker for a living? Like that's some terrible thing.
I mean, I had time to get used to it. We dated for several years before getting married, and I just knew that's what he did, and I trusted him. He seemed to make good life decisions, treated his poker playing like a real business and a real profession. I don't know, so I guess that's how I accepted it.
She knew I was a poker player. I did not change my life to become a poker player, which is very important, because a lot of people, they have a regular job. Say I was a lawyer too. And then I decide I'm going to start playing poker some. And then I play more and more and more poker. And then all of a sudden I decide, you know what, I'm making enough money from this. I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. I'm going to go do poker. Then she married a lawyer, not a poker player, right? And then that's a big problem, where a lot of people have drastically changed their lives. And let's say she married me and I was working a 9-to-5 job, or a 9 till 9 job if I'm a lawyer. And then I decide all of a sudden I'm just going to start traveling a lot. Well, maybe she didn't sign up to be with a partner who's going to travel a lot, right? And that's where a lot of strife happens. But Amie knew what I did before I met her. Believe it or not, I'm not a new poker player. I've been around, I don't know, 15 years or something. And that's it. You guys having any children? We already have 2 boys. They're both very good boys.
They're wonderful.
Fernando says you have to show profit in 3 out of 5 years, which I do think is accurate. Otherwise, it's not a profession. I'm not exactly sure if that's true, but it's good. Poker is highly competitive and the edges are tiny. Yep. So put in a lot of volume, right?
Volume cures variance.
Volume cures variance. It's true. It's absolutely true.
I know.
Most people just don't
said
put
it a few minutes ago.
Most people just don't put in the volume. They think they're supposed to win every weekend, and that's asinine. I have a blog post you should all read. JonathanLittlePoker.com/bankroll. It discusses lots of variance concerns. You want to go get James? I hear James out there.
I think he's fine.
All right. Let's see. You're disabled collecting SSD and wonder what happens if you win 200K. I honestly don't know. Talk to a professional. You need to talk to a professional about that. I don't know the answer. I do know if you make more than X amount of dollars, a lot of disability benefits go away. But I don't know. Let's see. What else do you want to talk about? Do I have anything else? Oh, opportunity cost. This is the most important point. We almost ran out of time. I almost forgot to get to it. Whenever you spend a lot of time playing, studying, thinking about poker, you're not spending time doing other things. I don't know if this is necessarily an accurate statement, but if you took the top 50 poker players in the world and made them go do something else when they were 18 instead of playing poker, the world would probably be a heck of a lot better place.
Why would you say that?
Why would I say that? Because some of these people are legitimate geniuses. And they found a game where they could make a lot of money. So they did that instead of going into science or medicine or humanity type things. I don't know. Clearly, I'm not one of these people. I'm best suited for poker. But there is thought out there that they could have been a better use of society, right? It's true. Everything you do, you could be doing something different. And poker takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to get good at.
But then your whole life would be different. Your
It would
family
be.
might be different.
It
Your
would be.
happiness level might be different.
If I did not find poker, I would not have found you. I would not have our 2 lovely boys. I would not live in New York City. Life would be very different,
I
right?
just think it's a weird thing to assume that the highest and best use of someone's skills must be somewhere other than poker.
I think the issue is that there are many things that actually do add a lot to humanity, right? Like say you cure cancer, right? Or cure any disease. That's obviously way better than playing poker and making money.
Or what about if you play poker and make money and then contribute to the foundations and charities that allow that research to happen?
Sure, and a lot do.
Yeah.
But a lot don't, right? And there are also a lot of people who are just like pretty smart, pretty good. And they're making $50K a year playing poker, whereas they could have...
But I think there's also, I mean, like we were talking about poker having entertainment value. I think there is value in going into an entertainment industry too. I mean, yeah, you're not curing cancer, but you're making people happy and excited, talking strategy with them, getting them to think more analytically. Those are all good things.
They are, but are they curing cancer? Or
Why do you have
making
to aim,
world peace?
Why do you have to aim to cure cancer?
Because imagine there are... I don't even know the right number. Let's say there's like 5,000 geniuses each year that come out of America. And let's say 1 or 2 of them they end up going into poker. Now, instead of, there's just like the odds are less that some huge breakthrough comes out. And then all of society misses out. Because someone wanted to make money immediately.
Well, but I think a lot of the people who go into those areas are passionate about those areas. If you shove a bunch of geniuses in a room and tell them to solve X problem and they have no interest in it, I don't know that they're necessarily going to get their creative juices flowing in the same way to get to the answers that people are hoping for anyway.
That definitely could be true.
I don't know. I just think that's...
It's a weird thing to think, right?
It's a weird thing to think, and I think it also does disservice to all the other possible careers that are out there.
Sure. Certainly we could be doing worse, right? Anyway, all this was to say that if you are spending time learning and getting better at poker and all of that, figure out what you could be doing instead. And like this comes up a lot where, say, I already had a job, right? There are a lot of people out there who make 50 or 100K a year at their job. They're happy as can be. Then they find poker, and then they think, well, I could probably make the same amount from poker. Maybe I should try to do that. And then they end up putting their career on hold or completely getting out of their career. Maybe their career had an upward trajectory, whereas poker maybe does, maybe doesn't for them. It depends, right? Realize you just could be doing other things. So ask if there are more beneficial things for you to be doing. Maybe there are, maybe there aren't. Patrick says, follow your passion, right? Yeah, and I think you should. It's another interesting question. Say there are people out there who, let's just say we knew if someone devoted their life to something, some huge breakthrough would come out and the world would be way better. But they really didn't want to do it. But they could do it. Should these people feel obligated to do it and just realize their life is not going to be what they want?
No.
No. Screw society. These are weird things to discuss. Sometimes we fall into these places. Anyway, opportunity costs exist. Let's see. Poker definitely seems better to you as a serious hobby. The stresses associated with playing for a living are not for you at all. Mark, you have to understand that stress is all in your head, right? I know it feels real, and I know it definitely impacts you in all sorts of ways, and it impacts everyone in all sorts of ways. But you got to get over the mental issues. Assuming you want to get over the mental issues. Maybe you don't. Let's see. Why are we teaching people to get better at poker? Because I was helped by a lot of people coming up, and people before them were helped by other people coming up. And it's nice to give back to the community and to like-minded people. It's good to help people who want to be helped. Not everyone wants to be helped. And also, it's important to realize that information flows freely, especially today with the internet. And if you are not putting out the information, someone else is. And I am happy to help people who want to better their lives. A lot of people don't want to better their lives. There are a lot of people out there who want to try to drag down the poker community and make the poker community struggle by trying to tear down the people who are trying to do good work. But that is not what we're trying to do. We are trying to better the game. And, is it bad for the game to make the game tougher? I think that just means you have to get better at the game, right? There's so many poker players out there who won 5 or 10 or 15 years ago, and they stopped winning. And then they look for people to blame. Whereas in reality, the blame is purely on themselves. If they don't keep up with what is happening in the game, then they're going to fall behind. And this happened to me to some extent for a while, maybe 8 or 10 years ago, where I wasn't studying, I wasn't working hard. And that was a big problem. So I had to realize that I have to get better and work hard instead of just coasting. A lot of people want to coast, and it's important to realize all games get more difficult over time. Look at every single game, look at every sport. People run faster, they jump higher, they play games better. And that's because they have better technology, right? And technology will very often make you better at all these things. And if you're not keeping up with it, you will fall behind.
A few people have been commenting on some drama from yesterday. What drama?
Oh, I don't even want to give attention to trolls.
Okay, all right, forget it.
There were 2 trolls who are... No, I'm going to go
okay.
briefly into it. These are the people who in the past said F Jonathan Little. They took it out of context. Basically, they baited someone into saying something about me. And then they decided to post it very out of context over and over again on the internet to try to get clicks. These are people who are trolls. They're lowlifes, essentially. They have a podcast, and they want to get views to their podcast. They have a small following. They're trying to get a bigger following. And the easiest way to do that, assuming you don't actually provide value to the world, is to try to find people who are doing better than you.
I think we should change
and put them at your level.
I think we should change topics.
Anyway, I'm going to briefly go into it. They were lying about Daniel Negreanu, taking his words completely out of context, exactly the same thing they did to me. And look, it's trendy to hate on Daniel Negreanu. He's done a few things that people don't like. And I get it. He's the trendy one to hate on. But people should be better than that. And I made it clear, they're basically trying to take their word against Negreanu's word, and I said, look, this is what these people did to me. Here's another case study of these people being incredibly unethical. And if they are incredibly unethical and you still want to follow them and give them your attention, then, well, you're probably not a very good person yourself. But we tried to better people's lives and help people do better.
When they go low, we go high.
It's what's the saying? Whenever you wrestle with a pig, you get dirty and the pig gets happy.
Really?
There's some saying like that.
Oh, really?
It's a cute one, right?
I like that one. That's adorable.
Yeah, so anyway, we don't want to get dirty. We want to...
Get dirty and the pig gets happy.
Yeah, I'm not trying to make them happy. And listen, that's what they want, right? They want to drag themselves... They want to make themselves seem relevant. So relax. This is my show. People want to make themselves seem relevant by feeling in the same league as people who are doing way better than they are. It's really what it amounts to. I know one of the guys, he tries to teach people to play poker, apparently doesn't have very good success, and is probably envious of the fact that I have had decent success helping people be good, which is probably why they targeted me. Negreanu does the same thing. Negreanu teaches people relatively successfully, right? I think that's what it is. They're trying to drag down people in their industry if I had to actually pinpoint the issues. And, like, I'm someone who's not going to... I don't have time to deal with people who randomly hate on me. It's not what I'm going to do with my life. So you post 2 tweets, let them know that these people are not good for game or society, and people can then make their own decisions. Let's see. Please keep putting out great poker content. That is right. They like the pig analogy. Yeah. It's a cute one, right? And it's true. I don't want to wrestle with pigs. All right. Don't waste your time and energy on people like them. That is accurate. I need to do this more often. We do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour. Let's see. Amie will take over the show soon. Oh, can I stop this?
No.
I feel really locked in.
I go back to work soon.
I don't know if I get to take a vacation.
This is all very temporary.
Yes.
Unless we started making it an evening show after the kids are in bed. But even then, I'm so tired.
We'll have afternoon wine. You want to have afternoon wine session?
No.
No. Amie says no more wine for Jonathan. Anything else you want to talk about? Any unseen costs you know of? Like, what are some things that maybe I missed that you think are relevant?
No, I think the biggest issue is the variance and the fact that you don't have the comfort or the net of an employer, of a company kind of taking care of you and subsidizing some basic living expenses. So it takes a lot more diligence, a lot more thought, a lot more planning. But that's true anytime you go into a business for yourself. And I think you try very hard to do it. So thank you.
You're welcome. Do you think that the variance is an unforeseen cost of being a pro? Or do you think people actually see it?
No, it's known. I think some people might think that they're amazing and of course they're going to be huge winners, but those are people who just don't understand the sport or the game or whatever you want to call it that they're getting into.
Tony says you need a pile of cash to grind multi-table tournaments. Yeah, you need 200 to 300 buy-ins. That's well known. Go to jonathanlillpoker.com/bankroll. We discussed that. A lot of people think they need $100,000 to play $1,500 big fielded tournaments. Maybe you'll get lucky, but when the big fields are large, variance goes through the roof. And I discussed that over at that link, jonathanlillpoker.com/bankroll. Well, you play at the Encore Casino in Massachusetts. I didn't even know they're building one in Massachusetts. Is that the one in Boston? If so, I don't know, maybe. I don't really do a whole lot of traveling to play poker unless I can put in a lot of volume. And like if I go on a vacation with Amie to go play poker, or if I go on a vacation with Amie, I'm not going to go play poker, right? We're going on a vacation.
He has, but that's because we've gone somewhere specifically because there was something poker related going on.
Yes, that's
which
different.
Is fine. But when we've gone on vacation with no expectation of poker, the computer goes away.
Yes.
Most of the time.
It takes grit and a special sickness to be good at poker. Probably true. It's important to be able to lose, go study, and then do it again. And then lose, and then go study, and do it again. And then lose, and go study, and do it again. And we have Elliot Rowe in the chat. I learned a lot from Elliot Rowe.
Hi, Elliot.
Essentially, one of the most important things, I think. I don't know if it's not groundbreaking, but it's neat to me that you have to think of your bankroll like the tide, sort of, right? The chips come in, the chips go out, the chips go in, the chips go out. And if you're playing multi-table tournaments, well, the chips go out a long time, and then they go back in. So it's important to understand what you sign up for, right? And if it's a game with a lot of variance, understand you signed up for a game with a lot of variance, and don't be like angry at it or disgruntled at it. You play in house games like we saw in Molly's game. Very rarely. Have I thought about going to Costa Rica to play on a cage event? Absolutely not. And whenever I travel, I try to make sure we're playing high-volume series where we can invest a lot of money in a short period of time. Read JonathanLittlePoker.com/travel rake. And I discussed that. All right, anything else you want to say today?
No, thank you for having me again.
You're welcome.
My time at home is coming to an end.
Amy's been on maternity leave for a while, and she has to go back to work soon. Thank goodness. Oh, I'm sorry. She has to go back to work soon.
It is a different dynamic being home together all the time. Although, to be fair, he's still plugging away, and I'm out with the baby, so...
Do you enjoy your time with the baby?
Infinite. I've loved being home. It also meant that I had so much more time with James, who's a real person and does real things. I don't get to go to his classes and stuff with him, but I just get to see him a lot more, which is really awesome.
Well, good. I'm glad you're enjoying your time.
I know. I'm going to miss them so much.
Can I tell you about Primed Mind? We actually have a sale on Primed Mind right now for $29.99. You get a year of Primed Mind and 14 one-hour-long webinars I did with a lot of great poker players and mindset experts, including Elliot Rose here. You can get that at pokercoaching.com/primedmind. Have I used it? Yes, of course I've used it. I wouldn't be promoting it if I did not use it. Essentially, it is a method to get you in the zone before and during your play, and also to help you wind down after you play. They're MP3s, or they're essentially tracks, where Elliot Rowe walks you through a lot of just thoughts in general. Like, for example, the chips go in and out, right? Understanding this will help you play much more soundly and getting in the zone, essentially. And consider it sort of meditation, hypnotherapy, a mix of the two, and I think that is very, very useful, especially for poker players who have issues with mindset. Right? A lot of poker players get really excited, they get really anxious, they get really eager, and that will result in you perhaps not playing your best. Anyway, you can find information for that at pokercoaching.com/primedmind. There's a link right there, Dead Money, thank you. Come to Australia for a vacation. We actually did that, how many years ago?
It was 2014.
Oh my god, 5 years ago. I went out there for the World Series of Poker Asia Pacific. I played that for 2 weeks, and Amie came out, and we traveled up and down the West Coast for 2 weeks. It was a whole lot of fun. East Coast, not the West Coast. East Coast.
It was awesome. One of my favorite trips we've ever done.
It was a lot of fun. All right, let's see. You're getting frustrated with wild players. Tightening up is hard. Well, that's how you beat tight players, or wild players, is you tighten up. Figure out what they do wrong and exploit them, right? If they're going on with all the garbage, Ace Jack's pretty good. Just be patient, get your money in good, and you will crush them. All right, we have to go. Have a great day. Enjoy yourselves. Be nice to someone. Don't give the trolls any credit or attention.
Love what you do.
Love what you do. It's a good one. Love what you do.
It's important.
And don't waller with the pigs. Is waller a word? Is it wallow?
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 I think it's wallow.
Don't wallow with the pigs because
I don't know. I'll have to look that one up.
It makes them happy and gets you dirty. Bye. Have a great weekend.